A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back once again to good old HJN's Super Graphics. Now, why don't we go on ahead and take on another peace of mind when it comes to gaming that we've had in more recent years. For number 2599, let's go ahead and talk a bit about Crash Team Rumble. Yeah, I'm sure some people are going to want me to express my overall feelings of the game itself. I have played the game, and I've also played it for long enough to realize that I will have some highs and lows to discuss here on HJN. First of all, let's get to know about the game's producers themselves. The developer for this game is Toys for Bob, and publisher Activision. This duo has in fact been around for a long time and was actually responsible for creating more Crash Bandicoot games than we could possibly realize. Think about it. They made the Insane Trilogy in 2017 as a special remake of the first three games from the franchise, and in 2020 came around an official fourth title because of the success of the last game. Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, came out 3 years after the success of the Insane Trilogy, and another 3 years would pass before both of these games' success would all tie together to a special multiplayer co-op challenge known as Crash Team Rumble. And just think about that for a minute. We've had 3 games cranked out in rapid succession. And by this point in time is where you gotta realize that a franchise like Crash Bandicoot, amongst Spyro the Dragon, which were both technically the two big mascots that made PlayStation such a big household name at the time that it first came around in the 90s, it really is quite a mystery that in some cases most people don't seem to grasp, especially when it comes to the idea that you have 3 different Crash games as well as some Spyro games. I mean, there was the Spyro Reignited trilogy, which itself happened to be a bit of a story in its own entirety, as the Insane Trilogy and Reignited Trilogy told us the perspective of Spyro and Crash in their first 3 adventures across 2 different games that came around within a span of a couple years. But in any case though, Crash Team Rumble did something different. It wasn't exactly about the full-on linear story-based perspective in which that, in the case of Crash Bandicoot, across the 4 games that we have gotten so far in the main series, they were all about Crash Bandicoot, as well as his family and friends, teaming up to defeat the evil Dr. Neo Cortex, and prevent him from making world domination. And so, with the case of Team Rumble though, it's a bit of a different story. It's almost like in the case of, let's say, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, a franchise that is, believe it or not, still ongoing with the likes of the Nintendo Switch. I almost wonder, with the fact that we're now in the PS5 and Xbox Scarlet era, there's been talks about a supposed Nintendo Switch 2. Yeah, they're finally going to crank out a new Nintendo console to come up against the likes of the new PlayStation and Xbox consoles. And maybe another Mario and Sonic game might come out by that point. Who really knows? In any case though, with Crash Team Rumble, this is the kind of rivalry challenge not many people would have expected. The overall gameplay is as simple as it is. You have 2 different teams with characters that you can pick from, as well as outfits to outfit them in, special skills to implement them in, and multiple maps to choose from, and multiple combat styles and skill sets that you get to cycle through, weapons and ammunition and whatnot, with the main type of course being known as Wampa Fruits, which, by the way, are real nowadays. Some people wouldn't think that Wampa Fruits were actually real, but they apparently are nowadays. Look them up. Anyways though, all of these different details, stats, and variables come together in a unique fight to not exactly the death, unless you want it to. The game doesn't exactly count up points based on how many deaths are put in, not like Call of Duty at least. No, the deaths are mainly to essentially eliminate each player for a certain amount of time before they respawn in the map. But the main goal overall is to collect the most Wampa Fruits so you can win the challenge. And whomever has the highest Wumpa Fruits are in fact the winner. It can be one team or the other, certainly not both. And I will say, this was actually a pretty unique way to tie together all of the different characters that we've gotten so far. I mean, you got Crash himself, his sister Coco, his girlfriend Tana, as well as the Dingodile, basically. Yeah, a hybrid between a dingo and a crocodile. Not to mention, there's the evil Neocortex himself. And there's also a good variety of other games characters involved in this as well. So you have a good variety of characters to choose from, but the thing is that the progression system in this game does technically prohibit you from getting all of the characters instantly. The more progress that you do in the game itself, the more characters, stats, skill sets, and other such things will be unlocked. And there's also a good variety of outfits to dress up your characters in particular. I'd say that they certainly got pretty carried away with the variety in terms of costumes and outfits, some of which are a bit DLC biased. So if you're hoping to spin out some additional dollars on this stuff, then you may do so for the wardrobe factor. And with everything else in mind, I'd say that with several hours worth of playthrough on my end, it hardly ever got boring. Sure, there was a monotony factor in mind because you're technically doing the same general thing every single time, collecting a bunch of Wumpa Fruits in order to beat the other players. Or you could simply do so to get the highest score. Yeah, scores happen to be counted up in this game just as well. And they technically do rank up the players' stats based on whom did it the best. And I will say, I'm probably in the more average level, because I'm certainly nowhere on the basis of many other players and their skills. So, I guess you could say, I've been holding back, for whatever reason. And with all this stuff in mind, I feel like that this does conclude a lot of the things that I will have to say that are on the more positive approach to Crash Team Rumble. But let's talk a bit about one big problem. This is a thing that some people have actually wanted me to talk about here. You have to, believe it or not, have a PlayStation Plus subscription to be able to play online. Because while you can play local LAN-based servers, to play online multiplayer matches, you'd have to have yourself PlayStation Plus. Yeah, no doubt about that. It seems to be a common, reoccurring theme with tons of games out there. Some games happen to go online, some might not, some might require subscription to PlayStation Plus, some might not, like most of the Call of Duty things, and on top of all that, this is something that most people have complained about. Because how are they supposed to get a hold of a Crash Bandicoot game, think that it's awesome, put it in, wait for it to download, launch it, find out they can't play it because they don't have a PlayStation Plus subscription, and then just sit there like an idiot. Like they've been scammed, catfished, pranked, fooled. Well, I'm sure to tell you that actually is sort of the fatal flaw of this whole thing. Considering the fact that I do have a big PlayStation Plus subscription, I pay about $100 each year for the highest plan available, the best plan available. But the thing is that while it's an annual subscription, it overall doesn't seem to be all that beneficial here. I could just downgrade it a bit, maybe go for the standard fare plan here, but what difference would it really make? There seems to be a lot of factors that play up into what could happen if I changed my subscription suddenly, not just with the games I'd lose, but also with other factors in this whole thing. So I don't exactly know if it's worth it or not. But you know what? Now that I've gotten all of that out of the way, it might as well be time to give out my final summary of this whole thing. Crash Team Rumble is a really good game for what it is. I like the variety in characters, outfits, and a lot of skill sets that you'd have to unlock and all that stuff, which does sort of make it a bit pointless to want to play the game multiple times. And while the overall challenge factor is there, there's a bit of monotony in mind if they had more variety in terms of challenges as well as overall game matchups. Like, look at the new Call of Duty games, for example. They sure managed to stack up tons of different matchups. You could go team deathmatch, capture the flag, free-for-all, gun game, domination, and tons of others. I mean, there's a lot of new modes that we have gotten. Even with the recent Black Ops 6, they sure have managed to squeeze in some newer additions to the multiplayer stuff. That of which is a really big thumbs up on that part. If Crash Team Rumble did some of the same sort of stuff as Call of Duty has been doing in recent years, maybe I could get even more points for it. Obviously, the big problem with it is having to have a PS Plus subscription just so you can play it online. And with all these factors put in, this does bring the game to probably a bit of a medial scoring of 6.7 out of 10.1. Not exactly something that I would wholly recommend to everybody out there, but if you are able to not only afford a PS Plus subscription and the game itself, plus all the stuff associated with it, DLC-wise or whatnot, then certainly you could play this game and get plenty of enjoyment out of it. And also, if you are, well, basically unable to get bored of anything. So, of course, this is my overall statements on Crash Team Rumble, but I will be back tomorrow with some more stuff associated with gaming, and HJN Super Graphics is definitely going to have tons more for me to talk about here. So, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more content.